Hello, welcome. I am so glad you're here. I don't know about you, but I am coming into this new year with all kinds of new ideas and lots of motivation, and I am anxious to share a lot of that with you. So we'll go ahead and get started. Today's video, I'd like to share with you a little bit about how I set up and how I am using my journal now. It's my hope that you take away from this some ideas and perhaps new motivation for yourself as well in a journaling practice in ways that you can use a journal to help transform your life and help you find momentum this year. So we'll talk a little bit about how you can live more in alignment with your values. We'll talk about, if you have a word of the year, we'll talk a little bit about how you can use your journal to get the most out of your word of the year exercise. I'll talk a little bit about how you can better use a habit tracker rather than just simply tracking. And then I'll share with you a few different ways that I like to journal, a few journaling techniques that I'm using a lot these days, and some other stuff all mixed in with that. So I hope that sounds good to you, and I'm looking forward to sharing some ideas and information with you. So the very first thing that I do when I set up my journal, and the very first thing that I look at every day in the journal as well, is I list my core values on the inside cover. And like I said, you can do this in any journal. And why is this so important that I would put it in a spot where I'm going to see this the first thing every day? Well, the simple answer is that if you are not living your life in alignment with your core values and keeping this in mind, there's a pretty good likelihood that at some point in your life, you're going to be looking back and dealing with a lot of regret. It's really important that you know what your core values are so that you can design your life in a way that allows you to live in harmony with those and be intentional about how you spend your days. So if core values is not something that, if you don't know what your core values are and you want a little help with this, you can go to the Art of Intentional Living community, and it's a free community to join, and I have a full PDF that walks you through the process there. So anyway, the other thing that I like to list on the inside cover, and this is new to me this year, but I'm super excited about using this as a tool for transformation, is I wrote on the inside cover my word of the year. And so that's another thing then that I'm looking at first thing every day to remind me how I'm going to show up as a person in my life. And that daily reminder can be a really powerful tool for seeing both of those on a daily basis. The other thing you'll notice is that I've listed on the side of that the definitions for my word. My word of the year this year is lead. And so when I've written the definitions beside it, like reading those, I might not read those every day, but reading those on a frequent basis is like a real reminder of how to show up as a person that leads. And so that's another thing that I'm going to try this year. And I think it's going to work out really well. And then the final thing that I have in the beginning on this inner cover is a commitment to myself. And honestly, that's one of the ways that, and one of the reasons I use the journal, because it's a commitment to me. It's a commitment to me to continue to grow and transform into my best version of myself. And so the commitment that I had written down for myself this year is to stretch, grow, strengthen, and restore. So those are some of the I guess, thoughts and where I want to focus my time and attention this year. So if we move ahead to the next pages in my setup here, the next place you'll see is this, in this journal, is a journey to follow your dreams. And you'll notice that I've only set up 2 spaces. And a few years ago, I used all the space that was possible for these. I had a lot of goals going on. But what I found is that working on too many things at a time, it's really difficult. And you tend not to make very much progress because your time and attention is so divided. So in more recent months and years here, I have been more focused on just picking one or two things, one or two dreams or goals to really focus my time and attention on. In my case this year, one of the things that I do intend to do is to focus on putting out more videos and sharing more knowledge on YouTube. So I've got a section on YouTube that talks about what it looks like when that dream is realized. So for instance, one of the things I wrote down is I have learned to make videos in a way that is simple, that I enjoy, and that people get a lot of value from watching them. So I like to put what I write when I describe that dream or that goal in more of a present tense, so that when I read it, I get that feeling of what it feels like if that dream were already realized. And then the next thing that's underneath that is the action steps that I'll be taking this season, so in the short frame, to work towards that dream or goal. So that's one of my dreams. The other one, I've tried to make it like really simple so that when I look at it each day, it's something I can look at really quickly and remind myself what it is I'm working towards. So like on the second one, I wrote strong, healthy body is like on the top part there. And then I described a little bit more in more detail underneath that then. This one I kept pretty short. A lot of times I like to describe them fairly well, but in this case I had written down like what that means to me and a couple of little triggers in my mind what that would feel like. So I wrote down able to hike anywhere that I choose, including the GR20, which is kind of a dream of mine, not kind of, it is a dream of mine to hike that one day. It's a 2-week hike on the island of Corsica off the coast of Italy and France. So it's a very challenging hike though. It's supposed to be like one of the most challenging hikes in France. So I still have a good amount of work to do in building up, particularly my leg strength, so that my knees can handle it. There was a few years back, we took a hike in Washington State, and there was a lot of up and down to the hike. And I realized that over the years, I had not had my, all the muscles that support the knee. I had not taken care of keeping them strong. And so I wasn't able to do what I had been able to do in years past. So that's one way I could really have the feeling of what realizing that dream would look like when I visualize myself, as I read that, hiking the GR20. So the other thing is then again, writing down exactly what I'm going to do. And I try to keep this as specific as possible. So for instance, on this one, a couple of the things that I wrote down were lifting weights 5 times a week and walking daily. And then I put a brisk walk on most days. So getting specific about what exactly I'm going to do this season that will propel me towards making these things happen. So if we move forward then, next in this journal, and this is what I will be doing, there's a vision board space, which I have not populated. I have not populated that space yet because I'm getting ready to host a 5-day vision board challenge in my community that I mentioned about earlier in the coming week. So I plan to make my board as part of that challenge. So then the next thing here is I have a set of mindset shifts. And so this is something for those repetitive thoughts that tend to be limiting beliefs or things that are going to hold me back, is a place to remind myself how to think positively and what that positive mindset shift is. So in my case, I have a tendency to think that everything's going to take a long time to do and that it's going to be difficult. That's just like my normal thought process that I typically go to. So the mindset shift that I'm really focusing on making, or at least this one that I have written in there now, is this is going to be easy and fun, or this is easy and fun. And approaching things from that perspective will help me, I believe, look for how to make it simple, how to make it enjoyable, and it's really helping. But it is one of the things that is going to take probably a little bit of long-term work for me, because that's something that I'm pretty ingrained in doing for many years. So if we continue to flip forward here, in the next thing in this journal is our wellness trackers. And so I mentioned to you that I wanted to share a little bit about how you can do a little bit more than just simply track what you've done and what you haven't done. And so I want to share with you a few of the things that I have set up that I'm tracking right now. And I will mention that most of these are something that I have been tracking for some time now. So I have 4 of them going on at once, and this is not something that I would typically advise, particularly if you're working on setting up a brand new habit. As I mentioned, these are ones that I've been working on for quite a while, so I don't have them to where they're something that I can't live without yet, and like brushing my teeth, for instance, so it's not that ingrained in my daily activities, but I've been doing them for quite a while, and I just want to make those routines stronger and those habits stronger so that it becomes closer to that brushing the teeth type thing. So that's why I have 4 of them. Normally I'd say just, if you're trying a new one, just stick with 1 or 2. But what you can do with them besides tracking what you're doing is something like I've done with the sleep one here. That one is more not so much a habit, but I like to use it, and that's why I've called these wellness trackers in this journal. What I'm doing there is tracking when my sleep score on my watch is above a 80. And so you'll notice that what I've written on the days that are below that, I've written down what the sleep score was, and then also a few notes of what my thoughts are as to why it was lower. And I've done this one time before on one of my habit trackers, I think last year at some point, and I found it really helpful because I started to recognize the things that I was doing that really impacted my sleep. Because when you see the patterns by jotting down your notes on your habit tracker as to why you're not doing the things that you want to do, then it really starts to show up as to how you can make really small changes in that habit. Maybe it's changing the time of day that you do it. Maybe it's attaching it to another habit that works really well for you and that you already have well integrated. Maybe it's just, wearing something differently or doing just, it could be any number of really tiny, small changes. But when you start to see the patterns of why you're not doing something, it can alert you to areas where you can make those tiny changes and shifts and brainstorm about how can I do something just a tiny bit differently that will help me solidify this habit. And I found that works really well for me. So that's some of the pages that I go through them pretty quickly, honestly, in the morning. And then the next thing I'll set up, and I've only set up the month of January, but I'll set up my calendar and like what's going on. The only thing that I wanted to bring to your attention there is my calendar also has a reminder of my intention. And in this case, which kind of goes back to why I was talking about those 4 habits that I've been working on for some time, it's to cultivate really strong routines. And the reason for me that that's important is because I do spend a fair amount of time often on traveling to visit family for the most part. And I found that each time I do that, I really struggle to stick with my routines. And that's honestly, I do believe it's because they're not integrated enough, like the habits of getting up in the morning and washing my face and even like drinking a glass of hot water first thing in the morning. Those things, I've been doing them for so long and so repetitively that if I don't do them, then it feels odd to me. And some of these other habits that I'm working on, they're not that solidified. So my intention is to really cultivate some strong routines by looping these habits together. So that brings me, that's all like the repetitive things that I do like every morning when I'm working on the journal. So I thought I'd also walk you through real quickly here a few of the different types of ways I've used my journal starting out the year. To begin with here, this first entry was talking about my word of the year lead, and I'm talking about actions that I can take to show up as this word and embody this word. Then if we come over to this day, it looks like I was talking about things that I accomplished for the day. So that's really me letting go of my day. Also talking a lot about feeling a little stressed out about something. So I'm also letting some expression of emotions go onto the page. Things that I want my virtual assistant to do the next day. So kind of a little bit reflective as well as forward thinking there. We go to this next part here. It looks like also things that I did for the day. So letting go of my day again and talking about something that I need to do tomorrow. And then on this page, it looks like I'm doing a little manifesting journey, so future scripting. If future scripting is something you're interested in, I'll put the link to that PDF that I have available in the description and for this video as well, so you can find that. So anyway, that's what I did on this day. It looks like I pushed it on into, I used 2 days space for that. And I probably put the date up here just because I did the gratitude for the 5th of the month on that day and the gratitude for the 6th of the month on this day. But looking at this, I can tell that my future scripting actually took me like 2 days of space. So that's one of the reasons like I kind of tried to leave this really open-ended so you can use it whatever way you want. And then as we go over here, you can see that I again used 2 days worth of space on the 7th, which if you look at it too, if you think about it, I just did a little bit on the 6th. So I just had done the gratitude on the 6th, and maybe I wrote down some thoughts on beauty I noticed and what gave me joy down here that day, but then used the middle space for like a 1 day period of time for journaling. And then here, it looks like I had a lot to get out because it starts out here saying this morning I woke up feeling sad. And so I am describing a situation that I was going through that week and my thoughts and feelings on that. So really resolving and working through what I was feeling. In fact, I took it all the way up in here through the reflections on that day as well. So other days, looking forward a little bit more when I don't have anything in particular that I'm wanting to use space for and I have time for being reflective. A lot of times I'll pop up here to the front of the journal and I'll do some more like of using a particular journal prompt. I might use a journal prompt that aligns with the theme for that week that I'm using in the journal. You might have noticed that this journal has different themes for each week. And so then I might, like I said, I might use whatever I'm kind of having that theme for the week, a journal prompt from there or from in my flourishing that goes with the journal for those people that subscribe. I really hope you have found today's video helpful to you. If so, remember to hit the subscribe button and let me know in the comments if there's anything in particular related to journaling or related to wellness, living an intentional life that you'd like me to make a video about. You can find out more, get more resources both on my website for intentional living as well as in the Art of Intentional Living community. All the links to this where you can easily access everything is in the description. And have an amazing rest of your day.